Well, hello there everybody. Great to see you back here on the channel. Now you can see it's a beautiful, crisp summer night here. It's just turned 3 o'clock. So I'm out here again to shoot the rising Milky Way galactic core. Now, the subject of today's video is that I am going to do something people have been asking me to do for literally years. I am going to do some comparisons between shooting single exposure shots of the Milky Way down there. I'm going to do stacked tripod mounted shots of the Milky Way, and then I'm going to do tracked shots of the Milky Way. I'm going to use the same foreground subject, this beautiful silo, have a look down the back there, for the foreground. And I'm going to compare the three methods because, you know, there's a lot of confusion out there about which is the best way to shoot my nightscape photography. And you know, this video may or may not clear that up, but at least it's going to go a little bit of the way down the track to help us all understand why do we go to the extra trouble to do star tracking. And for some occasions and for some people, you don't even need to do that. That's exactly what this video is all about. But firstly, let's have a look at this subject. Let's look at the sky and let's see what's happening. I'll tell you what, it is really, really warm. Mid 20 degree temperatures Celsius here. I've got the short sleeves going. It is really, really warm. Bugs everywhere, and that's something I absolutely hate. Australian summer, we haven't had a hot summer until this week here where I live, and it's going to be 37 degrees tomorrow, so I'm sort of a bit of respite here tonight, I suppose. But anyway, let's get into it, and we'll have a bit more of a chat about what we're going to do in the settings, the camera, where I'm going to set up, etc. Tell you what, the bugs here are driving me crazy. It's a trade-off you have with this hot weather. It's a trade-off I really would prefer not to have. I'd much prefer it to be 10 degrees cooler, but it is what it is. Anyway, here is my camera, my standard camera that I'm going to use for every single shot. So this is a Nikon Z6 Mark II. It is a hydrogen alpha modified camera, and I'm shooting it with the Nikon 20mm f1.8 S mount, the native Z system, and I'm going to use the same camera and lens for everything. I'm just going to move it around to whatever composition I'm looking at shooting. So firstly, I'm going to concentrate on just single exposure shots of the silo. I may do a panorama. We'll just see what the time brings me. It's really clear sky, really calm conditions here, perfect for shooting. There was a little bit of a forecast for a bit of cloud coming in later, so I've just got to keep on top of that because I don't want to get to the stage where I get to the end and want to set my tracker up and so forth and it's cloudy or something like that. So I've got to keep moving. But that's what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to put my tripod over here. I'll just do a bit of preliminary setting up as far as composition. I think composition is the most important factor when it comes to shooting any form of photography, and why would nightscape photography be any different to that? So the way this silo is set up, the Milky Way is going to rise over the top of it, but over towards the left side, and there's more space there. So it's almost like I can compose the scene so that the main foreground subject is a little bit more to the right side and the Milky Way is a little bit more to the upper left side, and that's exactly what I'm looking to do. So I'm going to take my tripod over there, set it up, and we'll go from there. Now, just talking about composition, one of the things I want to point out to us when we're shooting our nightscape photography, okay, what we tend to do is get carried away about the Milky Way. Where's the Milky Way? We've got to find the Milky Way. But you know, I think, yeah, that's important, but I think we should look at this from a different angle. And the way I look at things is like this. Where is my foreground subject? How do I best make that look good in the photo? You know, a wise old photographer said to me many, many years ago, he said to me, Richard, if the image looks good, if the photograph looks good compositionally, just press that shutter button, get the shot. And I've remembered that all these years. Now, I've just been walking a little bit around here looking for the best composition on the building. Now, if I go over there a little bit too far, there's some trees over the other side on the right-hand side of that building that show. I don't want those trees because they're breaking the lines of the shed over here. Now, if I go too far that way, then I'm going to lose the separation between the silo bins down there. I can see a bit of sky through there, and that actually defines the foreground subject, and that's what I want to do. Now, this is a fairly complicated foreground subject because it's got a number of sheds there's about 2 or 3 silos back there. Now, I can't possibly get every aspect of it from one angle, but I'm doing my best to do that. So clean lines as much as possible. Now, I know you're going to say to me, look, sometimes there's trees. I can't get rid of trees. Of course you can't. Just do your best. That's all any of us can do. So by moving my camera around, and that's what I'm doing now, I'm just moving it into different positions, lining up the building here primarily, and then I'm thinking to myself, where's that Milky Way going to go into? Now that comes into our planning before we even get here. We can work all this stuff out. But while I'm here, I can see the Milky Way up there as clear as day, and probably you can as well, behind the building, and there's plenty of space. So this is negative space. Over here on the left hand side of the image, that Milky Way is going to rise up into that quite beautifully. So I better get going. I've got to shoot some shots here. I'm going to shoot some single frames, going to shoot some stacking, and I'm going to shoot a panorama just on the tripod. Then I'm going to get the tracker out and do some shots there. So I've got to get moving. Let's get into it. Now you can see over there behind me, there's a fair bit of light pollution on the distant horizon there. It's not lighting up the sky at all, which is great, but it's actually lighting up this building. I don't have to do any light painting here. I can just sweep across, do my images, my panos and everything else just by using the ambient light that's coming from that hill over there. And for this composition, I find that to be absolutely perfect. Alright, so in case you're wondering my settings, I'm shooting with the 20mm lens wide open at f1.8 for a lot of these shots, and then I stop down to f2.2. Now you're going to ask me, okay, what's your reasoning for that? Well, the reality is I want as much light gathering power as I possibly can get. So if you're shooting single shots, and you've got a lens that opens up to f1.8 and it's pretty sharp at f1.8, go for it. See how you go, because it's going to capture a lot more light in a lot less time. Now I stopped down to f2.2 as well for the panorama that I shot here, and the reason for that is a little less vignetting. Now vignetting is an enemy of panoramas, so that's the black edges you get around each frame. So stopping a lens down will minimize that a little bit. So that's my reckoning. I'll probably do a similar settings on my tracker just to keep things fairly consistent, but I often stop this lens down to f2.8 because it will become sharper at f2.8. Any lens becomes sharper when you stop it down a bit. But in a situation where I want as much light gathering power as possible, when I'm not doing light painting or anything like that, opening up the aperture will always give you that advantage. Okie dokie, well, I've got my star tracker set up here, Skywatcher Star Adventurer. This is the 2i version. I set it up with my quick polar alignment method, which I've got plenty of videos about. Works great using the Sky Safari app. Got my Nikon Z6 Mark II, 20mm f1.8, but my problem is, I don't know if you can see in the background, clouds. The clouds are coming across. Now it's a high level cloud, reasonably thin, but it's going to interrupt my image, particularly the pano. I'm shooting a panorama, 2-row pano right across from one side to the other. So when you see the comparison between the tracked shots and the non-tracked shots, that's going to come into the equation because there wasn't any cloud here when I was shooting the non-tracked images before. But nevertheless, I'm going to continue on and I'm going to shoot using the tracker here. Just get it plugged in. I'm using a USB power bank to power the tracker. I've worked out from previous occasions out that only certain power banks actually work, or keep working is what I should be saying. So this one does. It's funny because it's a cheap one. It's not even one of the more expensive ones. Who would know? But anyway, look, it's still a great time out here. It's quite warm. So I'm going to get these. There's a big heavy cloud over there now, so I might just have to wait a little bit and just see how we go with that. Well, you know, when it gets cloudy, nothing else is working out for me. The old cup of tea is going to. I'll tell you what, the last time I came out, I didn't bring a cuppa with me and I missed it. I tell you, I am starving. So let's get into that. I'll just try and wait these clouds out. Oh, don't you hate that? I've just put my tea bag in and dropped the cord, so it's all wet. Oh man, oh man. Clouds, now I'm dropping my tea bag in my cup. It's all happening out here. Oh, hang on. Maybe, just maybe, there's a little bit of clear sky on the way. Anyway, I think I've still got time to have this cuppa. Well, I'm going to have it anyway. All right, well, one of the real pleasures in life, you know, is to just relax under the stars with a cup of tea. Now, I learnt many, many years ago that there are a lot of frustrations when doing nightscape photography. And tonight, the clouds have come across. That's a frustration, but I tell you what, this choc chip biscuit is going to alleviate some of that pain, especially when I dunk it in here. No, it's not a rum ball, but it's the next best thing. Oh man, bugs are attacking me now because I turned the lights on. That's another frustration, but hey, I'm just going to take some deep breaths, relax, and enjoy this. Okay, so I've waited a while, taken the shots that I can. I've done my best with these tracked shots. Now there's quite a bit of cloud around, nothing I can do about that. So as far as the settings go, what I did, I shot this at f2.2 for the majority of these tracked shots. And some I shot at 60 seconds, some at 30 seconds. Now I want you to remember, one of the main advantages of using a star tracker is that you can extend your shutter speeds. Now the limitation on a tripod mounted camera when shooting the stars is shutter speed, because the stars are actually moving across the sky. When you use a star tracker, that alleviates that problem because the star tracker follows the stars across the sky. Of course, the foreground becomes blurred and therefore you have to work out how to blend foregrounds with the sky. But for the sheer concept of taking the photographs themselves, the shutter speed can be lengthened out depending on your polar alignment. But because there were clouds in the sky, I decided to limit my shutter speed to 30 seconds because I wanted to get through it quicker. It's as simple as that. I shot that at ISO 1600, f2.2, 30 seconds. Then I shot some singles, 1 minute shutter speed when I had some clear sky over the top of the Milky Way and the silo. Now, by the way, the silo is about 200 meters down the road there. I've come back here to this clear open place to shoot my track shots, and I always do that. The last thing I want to be doing is trying to blend in odd shapes around a silo with a blurry foreground. That's just not something I want to even look at. But back here, the silo is a small subject in the background, so I can quite easily hide that behind the foreground. Anyway, I don't know how this is going to go. I'm going to hang around here, but it's pushing 5 o'clock in the morning. It's not far from sunrise, and of course the sky over there in the east is going to start getting really bright, and I'm going to lose any opportunity for shooting any more nightscapes tonight. But we'll just hang around a bit longer and just see what happens. Well, as you can clearly see behind me there, the dawn is approaching very rapidly. It's about 6 a.m. and there's a very warm breeze blowing on my back here. It's going to be about 37, 38 degrees Celsius here today. I am not looking forward to that, believe me. But anyway, what can we glean from our experiences out here tonight? By the way, I'm going to show you the images in a minute, but firstly, single shots. Is that a valid way of shooting a scene like this? And I can tell you what, this is the perfect scene to be shooting a single shot. Nice, dark, clear skies and a little bit of ambient light on the foreground. So basically all you have to do with the single shot is come out here with a camera and a tripod, put it on its best settings, and as I showed you before, I think that's fairly wide open apertures, and just click the shutter button. Easy as that. And as far as stacking goes, well, that's pretty much the same. You just take a whole heap more of the same thing. And so what's the advantage of using a star tracker? There's a lot more mucking around, of course there is, because you've got to set up a tracker, you've got a polar align, and then you've got to do the shots, and then you've got to blend in a foreground. They're the disadvantages. The advantage is really one thing, and that is we can extend our shutter speed. So by extending our shutter speed, we can actually lower our ISO, and by doing all of those things, we will get sharp, crisp, high dynamic range. We will get less noise, and it's just a valid way of getting the best possible image of the sky. But let me tell you this, it makes no difference to a foreground. In fact, it complicates the whole foreground immeasurably. So as far as shooting the foregrounds here, you know, for a lot of people, it's going to be a much better option just to come out here and do the single shots or perhaps stack. You'll see I did a panorama of single shots. I also did a panorama of tracked shots. So you be the judge. I'm going to show you the images now. I want to know what you think, and I want to hear your feedback down below in the comments section. So anyway, until I see you in the next video, I want you to have a fantastic week. If you're in Australia in this hot weather, just bunker down, put the air conditioner on. If you're overseas in cold weather, well, I'll look forward to seeing you anyway. It doesn't matter. All right, have a great week, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Just before I finish this video, I just have to make a comment on the comparison between these three images. And you can see the single one on the top left, tracked on the bottom and stacked. Now the tracked image has the highest dynamic range, but it is so close between the tracked image and the stacked image, the majority of people wouldn't notice the difference unless you put them right side by side. And I have to say that the single image is also quite beautiful, considering how easy that one was to take. So this has prompted me to definitely do a editing video regarding taking single frames, and I'll show you exactly how I edit that image to get to the result that we've got here. So look out for that video in the next week or so. Thanks again for watching.